topic is relative velocity. So what do you mean by relative velocity? So relative velocity means the relative velocity of an object 2. So this is the object 2. So relative velocity of an object 2 with respect to 1 when both are in motion is the time rate of change of position of object 2 with respect to that of object 1. So in that case we have to relate velocities of two objects. Okay. So the relative velocity of 2 with respect to 1 when both are in motion. Okay. When both are in motion is the time rate of change of position of object 2 with respect to that of object 1 is its relative velocity. So here we have to consider two objects. They have to compare the velocities. So this is the relative velocities. Okay. So next one you have to find out the expression for relative velocity. So here we have to consider two objects 1 and 2. And its velocities are v1 and v2. Okay. So here we have to consider the objects 1 and 2 moving along the same direction with the constant velocities v1 and v2. Okay. Suppose the position of coordinates of the two objects. Suppose the first case we have to consider the position coordinates of two objects x1 0 and here x2 0 are at a time what t equal to 0. So at a time t equal to 0 its position is 0. So it is denoted by x1 0 and x2 0. You got the idea? So at a time t equal to 0, the object 1 is at x1 0 and object 2 is at x2 0. Okay. Then at a time t equal to t, it becomes x1 t in the case of object 1 and x2 t the case of object 2. Okay. So first you have to find out x1 t, that is the position coordinates becomes x1 t is equal to x1 0 plus v1 t in the case of first object. Is correct? x1 t is equal to x1 0 plus v1 into t. You know the velocity is equal to distance by time from this equation. That is velocity is equal to what? Distance by time. So what about distance? Distance is velocity into time. Okay. So here distance means we have to consider the positions coordinates. Okay. So here the first case it is x1 t is equal to what? x1 0 plus v1 into t. So v1 0 means here 0. So it is becomes v1 t. Velocity for first object into its time. So what about in the second object? It becomes x2 t is equal to what? x2 0 plus v2 t. Okay. Then so this equation 1 and this one is equation 2. Then you have to subtracting 1 from 2, that is x2 t minus x1 t is equal to x2 0 minus x1 0 plus v2 minus v1 into t. Is it correct? x2 t minus x1 t is equal to x2 0 minus x1 0 plus v2 minus v1 into t. Okay. Then it again write as x2 t minus x2 0. Okay. x1 x2 t minus x2 0 minus x1 t minus x1 0 equal to v2 minus v1 into t. Is it correct? Then x2 t minus x2 t is what? Displacement of object 2. Displacement. So x2 t minus x2 0 means displacement of object. Displacement of object 2 in time t. Then this is what? x1 t minus x1 0 is what? Displacement of object. Displacement of object 1 in time t, which is equal to what? v2 minus v1 into t. Okay, so displacement of 2 minus displacement 1 is equal to what? V2 minus V1 into t. So this can be rewrite as displacement of object 2 in 2 at time t minus displacement of object 1 in time t is the relative displacement of object. Relative displacement. Relative displacement of object 2 with respect to what? Object 1 in time t is equal to, so displacement of object 2 in time t minus displacement of object 1 in time t is equal to what? Relative displacement of object 2 with respect to 1 in time t is equal to what? V2 minus V1 into t. Then you have to take t to LHS side. So you have to divide it. Relative displacement divided by relative displacement divided by time is equal to what? V2 minus V1. Okay, so relative displacement by time is what? Displacement time means its velocity. So this is a relative velocity. So relative velocity of object 2 with respect to 1 is what? Relative velocity of 2 with respect to 1. That is V21 is equal to what? V2 minus V1. Okay, then what about relative velocity of object 1 with respect to 2? It is equal to what? V1 minus V2. Okay. Next case, relative velocity terms of position time graph. So the first case V2 is equal to V1. So V2 is equal to V1. So this equation becomes relative velocity becomes what? 0. That is, you know, the relative velocity is what? V2 minus V1 with respect to object 2 with respect to 1 is V2 minus V1 is also V1 minus V2. If both are same, is velocity are same, what happened? It becomes 0. So relative velocity V2 minus V1 is what? 0. Okay, so in that case, the two objects remains a constant distance is the important point. So in that case, the two objects remains a constant distance apart thoroughly the motion. So here the position time graphs are parallel straight lines equally inclined to the time axis. So this is the what? Position time graph. So in that case a constant distance apart thoroughly the motion. So this is the first case. V2 is equal to V1. So the relative velocity becomes 0. So what about second case? V2 is greater than V1. So in that case, V2 minus V1 is positive value. V2 minus V1 is positive value. So the relative separation increases by the amount V2 minus V1 after every second. So the position diagram gradually move apart. So this is a graphical representation. So in that case, the position time graph what? Gradually move apart. Case of V2 greater than V1. So what about? So the last case V2 less than V1. So in that case V2 minus V1 is negative. So the second object's velocity is less than that of the first object velocity. Okay. So initially the object 2 is ahead of object 1. So initial time the object 2 is ahead of object 1. And x2t minus x1t is what? Positive. Okay, the relative separation is decreases in this case. Okay, initial case the relative distance decreases. Then decreases after time t. These two objects meet a point. So the condition is x1t. So in that case x1t is equal to what? x2t. So this point becomes x1t is equal to what? x2t. Okay. Then what happened? Then the separation x2t minus x1t becomes negative. So what happened? The object 1 overtakes the object 2 and the relative separation between them again begin to increase here. Okay. For when V2 less than V1, so after a time these two objects meet, then after that the relative separation between them again begins to increase. Okay.